In this video we're going to take a look at changing some of the options in Word. To do this, go to the File menu and go down here to Options, and you get the Word Options dialog box here that has a bunch of tabs down the side, and we'll take a quick look at all of these. Word is almost infinitely customizable, so there's a whole bunch of stuff here, and most of it we're not going to take a look at all. These things right here, these first three things, I think you probably want to leave those on. They're on by default. And the only reason I think you'd want to turn those off would be they take a little more computing horsepower, and if it takes too long, if you find yourself waiting on a live preview to come up, or when you drag stuff, you end up waiting for the document to update, you could turn these off. But I think most computers nowadays have enough computing horsepower that that's not really a problem. We've got a display tab here, and most of this stuff is pretty self-explanatory. We've got proofing here, and one thing that you should probably be aware of is that if you type words in uppercase, by default they are not checked for spelling. So if you basically the reason for that is usually when you have stuff like that, it's going to be acronyms, and so they will not appear in Word's dictionary, and so it just gets rid of a lot of unnecessary red wavy lines in your document. But if you type actual words in uppercase letters, you should know that they're not going to be checked by Word, and you need to be careful and check your spelling yourself. Another thing here is the autocorrect options, and we've got an autocorrect tab here, and this stuff's pretty self-explanatory. Down here is some auto replacement stuff, and so for example, if you type parenthesis, you'll get a copyright symbol, and there's some other shortcuts for inserting some special symbols here. And then a whole bunch of stuff down here is basically common either mistypings or misspellings. For example, if you are trying to type the word make, you're not going to misspell it that way, but you might mistype it. There's a real common one if you go down to the T's here. That's real handy if you're trying to type real fast. Sometimes when you try to type the word the, you'll type TEH, and it's set here to automatically replace it with the. Now you can actually add your own shorthand here. For example, you could type in here, like US, and have it replaced with United States over here, or something like that. Now US happens to be an actual word, so if you typed it in capital letters though, and then said replace it with United States, and then you click on add here, then it will replace it only if you type it in caps. So you can type the word us in lowercase letters, and it'll still work. Math autocorrect is something most people don't need to worry about too much. Auto format as you type. A couple of interesting things here. Straight quotes with smart quotes. I've got that turned off. Smart quotes are curly quotes that curl one way for opening and another way for closing. Straight quotes look the same both ways. A few other things here that are self-explanatory. Automatic bulleted lists. If you do an asterisk and a space and then start typing, it'll automatically do bullets for you. If you do a number and a period, or a number and a parenthesis and a space and start typing, it'll do automatic numbered lists for you. I like that, so I've got them turned on. Here's one that is usually set on by default, and that I turn off. If you hit the tab key at the beginning of a line and this option is turned on, it adjusts your first line indent for you. And I would just rather, if I want to adjust the first line indent, I'll just go up to the ruler and do it myself. So you may, that may be something you might want to turn off as well. A little more auto formatting stuff here. Actions, and we're going to skip that stuff. Here's one that I think you will probably want to take a look at. First of all, the auto recover information. The default here is 10, and that means it'll save your document every 10 minutes. So if something happens, if the computer crashes on you while you're in the middle of editing, you can go back and pull up this auto recover document. But if it's set on 10 minutes, you could theoretically have the computer crash like 1 second before it was getting ready to save, and lose 9 minutes and 59 seconds worth of work that you've done. So I keep this on 1, and the only reason you'd want a number bigger than that would be, I think, if you're writing a pretty big document, and every time you have to save, you end up waiting on Word to complete the save. But on most small documents, that's not going to be a problem. So I set that to 1. Another thing you might want to check is your default file location. Your auto recover location is going to be on your C drive. Your default file location may be someplace else. In my case, I'm on a network, so it goes to the network server and to a folder called Employees, and then to a folder for me, and then a folder called My Documents. And so you might want to check that and make sure it's saving them by default where you want. If you find yourself always going to a Save As and having to select a different file folder, you might want to go in here and change this. Language we don't need to worry about. Advanced, there is a ton of stuff on here, and it's way too much to go over in a short video, and most of the defaults are things that you'd want anyway. If you want to go in here and take a look at it, go take a look, but you can probably just go with the defaults for most of this stuff as well. You do have the option to customize the ribbon. If you look at my ribbon, you notice I've added the developer tab. That allows me to do macros. So if you want to do a little bit of customizing of the ribbon, you can do that. There's also a quick access toolbar, which is this little toolbar that appears up here. There's a little down arrow next to it that probably won't work because I've got a dialog box open. And if you find yourself doing some common commands that are not on the ribbon, or that you wish were on the home ribbon, which is probably where you spend most of your time, you can save yourself a click or two by putting it up here. There's some option for add-ins that we're not going to worry about. There's a Trust Center, which is where you can go if you want to open documents that have macros in them, and we're not going to take a look at that here either. So those are some of the most common things I think that you'd want to change under options if you want to customize Word.